The next order of business is the election of the Speaker of the House for the 2017-2018 term. The House is now open for nominations for Speaker. The Chair recognizes Representative Jay Powell.
Mr. Clerk, I rise to nominate the man from Blue Ridge, David Ralston.
Is there a second? Chair recognizes Representative Calvin Smyrie.
Go.
Chair recognizes Majority Leader for a motion. Is there any objection to closing the nominations for Speaker? Any objections? Hearing none, the nominations are closed. The Chair recognizes Representative Jay Powell to speak to the nomination of Speaker Ralston.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, David Ralston was born in Ellijay, the oldest of 5 brothers. He attended Young Harris College and then North Georgia College and State University, where he received his undergraduate degree. He obtained his law degree from the University of Georgia School of Law and currently lives and practices law in Blue Ridge, Georgia. He is a product of and has deep roots in the mountains of North Georgia, but he is more than that. David learned many lessons about politics from his father, Willard Ralston. 2 of the most valuable lessons that he learned were that all politics are local, and politics without public service is meaningless. He took those lessons to heart. And in 1992, David was elected to the state Senate, where he served until 1998. In 2002, he was elected to this House, where he has served for the last 14 years. In 2010, he was elected as the 73rd Speaker of the Georgia House of Representatives. He has been involved in politics and has served the citizens of North Georgia and the people of this state for a good portion of his life. But he is more than that. He's been a lawyer for over 37 years, representing his clients in North Georgia, helping them solve their problems, navigating the intricacies of the law and the court system. But he is more than that. In 2010, David was named Georgian of the Year by Georgia Trend magazine. In 2011, Governing magazine named him as one of the 16 Republican legislators in the nation to watch. He is well known and respected in national and regional legislative organizations and has served on the executive committee of both the National Speakers Conference and the Southern Legislative Conference. He is a public figure known throughout Georgia and in legislative circles throughout the country. But he is more than that. At home in Blue Ridge, he is active in the Fannin County Chamber of Commerce, Blue Ridge Mountains Art Association, and the Blue Ridge Lions Club, and actively supports many other community organizations and activities. He is active throughout his community because he loves the mountains, which he calls home. But he is more than that. He loves books and is an avid student of history. He understands that we cannot appreciate where we are as a state or nation or make plans for where we are going unless we first realize where we have been. Whether it's the history of the founding of our country, the writing of our Constitution, the wars we have fought, the adversities we have overcome, the leaders who have arisen, he has read and loved all of it. He is indeed a voracious reader who loves history, but he is more than that. He is a man of character. He is a man of honor. He is a man of courage. He is a man of compassion. He is a man of discipline. He is a man of principle. He is a man who loves this house and its traditions. He has stood in this very well and almost wept when he has told us about illnesses and tragedies which have befallen our members and their families, when he has delivered heartfelt tributes to members and friends we have lost, such as Bob Bryant and Harry Geisinger. And he is like that because he considers all of us as part of his family, and that when one of us is hurting, all of us are hurting. Many of you were not here when David Ralston was first elected Speaker. This House lacked direction. Its leadership was fractured. Its members were disheartened. Its enactments were oftentimes mean-spirited. David Ralston gave us reason to take pride in the work that we do, made us once again feel like public servants whose opinions mattered, whose work produced results and made a difference. And he made us optimistic that we might actually achieve the goal we all aspire to. And that goal is this: that when we leave our place of service in this house, Georgia will be a little better than it was when we got here, and that our presence here helped make the difference. When David Ralston was first elected Speaker, I was in the second year of my first term. I ran and got elected because my predecessor, Richard Royal, retired and decided not to seek re-election. He had gotten discouraged after 25 years of serving his South Georgia district because of the dissension, the rudderlessness, and the lack of collegiality, so he decided to retire. It was not long after Speaker Ralston became Speaker that there was a palpable difference in the halls of this Capitol, in the temperament of this House, and the optimism of its members. The change in the House made by the election of this one man was pervasive and so obvious that former Representative Royal told me, if I had known David Ralston would be elected Speaker and how quickly the atmosphere of this House would do a 180, I never would have retired, and you would still be sitting in Camilla. So yes, David Ralston is more than a man of the mountains, more than a lawyer, more than a politician, more than a public figure, more than a man active in his community, more than an avid reader and lover of history. He is a man of character, honor, courage, compassion, discipline, and principle. He is our Speaker. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Be sure you put your feet in the right place, then stand firm." David Ralston's feet are in the right place, and he is not a man who is afraid to stand firm. I encourage you to cast your vote for our friend and our Speaker, David Ralston. Mr. Clerk, I yield the will.
The chair recognizes Representative Calvin Smyrie to speak to the nomination of Speaker Ralston.
Mr. Clerk and ladies and gentlemen of this House, first of all, let me congratulate all the members on their re-election and all of the new members that have come on this journey of public service. Several days ago, I got a call, and on Friday, I had the pleasure of again meeting with Speaker Ralston, and he asked me to second his nomination as Speaker, and I agreed, and I'm honored to do so. Today will mark my 43rd legislative session. It's an honor to be considered the dean of this House, and now that the elections and the political season are behind us, it is time for us to get on with the people's business in the people's house. 6 years ago, I stood in this place as a candidate for Speaker. Today, I stand as the Dean of the House to second the nomination of Speaker David Ralston. While we are of different parties and will disagree many times during this legislative session, on today, I send a message of esprit de corps and agreeing to work together for the betterment of all Georgians as we start this legislative session. I have worked with Speaker Ralston on many, many issues, but mainly transportation. Believe it or not, It is possible to be of a different political party and persuasion and still work through political differences without compromising the principles and position of the political party or caucus you represent. I can truly say that working with Speaker Ralston, that sacred guard has been maintained and always respected. He is a man of his word. He is fair, amicable, has an open-door policy, and is a man of character and integrity. All these attributes are required and needed in presiding over the affairs of this House. It takes a strong and fair leader, and I can attest that he is that. Mr. Clerk, ladies and gentlemen of this House, it is my pleasure and honor as Dean of this House to second the nomination of my friend and colleague, David Ralston, as Speaker of the House. Mr. Clerk, I yield the well.
On the election of the Speaker of the Georgia House of Representatives for the 2017-2018 term, those voting for the gentleman from the 7th District, Representative David Ralston, should vote yes or green, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Ring the bell. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the election of the Speaker of the House, a gentleman from the 7th, Representative Ralston received 169 votes. The gentleman from the 7th, having received the majority of the votes cast, is hereby declared elected Speaker of the House for the ensuing 2017-2018 term. The chair appoints the following members to the escort committee: the lady from the 70th, Representative Lynn Smith; the gentleman from the 164th, Representative Ron Stevens; the gentleman from the 158th, Representative Butch Parrish; the lady from the 54th, Representative Beth Beskin; the gentleman from the 144th, Representative Bubber Epps; the gentleman from the 67th, Representative Micah Gravely; the gentleman from the 11th, Representative Rick Jaspers; the lady from the 160th, Representative Jan Tankersley; the gentleman from the 150th, Representative Matt Hatchett; the gentleman from the 111th, Representative Brian Strickland. Committee of Escort, please escort the Speaker to the Speaker's rostrum. Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Thank y'all very, very much. Speaker Pro Tem Jones, Majority Leader Burns, Minority Leader Abrams, the leadership teams of both the majority and minority caucuses, our distinguished clerk of this House, Bill Riley, all of my colleagues here in the Georgia House of Representatives, family, friends, and my fellow Georgians. In July 1889, 128 years ago, the members of the Georgia General Assembly walked together from the Kimball Opera House, which was located at the corner of Marietta and Forsyth Streets here in Atlanta, to dedicate this Capitol building. It was a building made possible by a $1 million appropriation in the state budget, and, true to the spirit of economic development, a gift of 5 acres of land and $115,000 from the city of Atlanta to make sure that this building stayed in this city. And true to the stewardship that this state is known for, this Capitol came in $181 under budget. And so a check was written back to the state treasury for that $181. The members of the House of Representatives that marched that day into this very chamber looked different than our House today. All male, all white, all one political party. But as much has changed, that House faced its own challenges. It confronted issues in a Georgia that was less than 25 years removed from a destructive civil war and only 11 short years away from the dawn of the 20th century. They came to do work on behalf of the people who sent them, because they came to be a representative in the people's house. Today, that work begins anew. Each of us has been given the solemn honor of representing the citizens of the greatest state in the Union. And just as the members of the House in 1889 tackled the issues facing Georgia at that time, so shall we write this chapter of our state's history. It is my hope that we will begin this work with a spirit of optimism and with a commitment to the ideals of civility, mutual respect, and decorum. We represent distinct districts. We each have an obligation to give voice to those who look to us for leadership, regardless of political party, whether you are rural, urban, or suburban, regardless of gender, age, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. You each are a member of this people's house. Georgia in 2017 is far different than Georgia in 1889. Today, we are a growing, dynamic state reaching with optimism to a future filled with promise and greatness, anchored by time-tested principles and celebrating our diversity as a people. We are the #1 state in the nation in which to do business, home to the world's busiest airport, soon to be home to the busiest port on the east coast of the United States of America, a state where our colleges and universities continue to grow in prestige and our prison population is in decline. A state that has become a leader in the movie industry, in the music industry, while still leading the way in agribusiness. We are a state busy preparing for the future by improving and enhancing our infrastructure. And let me say, there is no beauty like the beauty of cranes, bulldozers, and orange cones. But just as our forefathers in 1889
we still face challenges, and we must not rest on our accomplishments. There is work to be done. Too many Georgians are uninsured and lack access to quality health care. They are looking to us to seek out a fiscally sustainable health care system designed by Georgians for Georgians. They are looking to us to make sure that our public schools are worthy of the greatness of our state, and despite all the rhetoric and the heated debate, we must not lose sight of the fact that almost 70,000 of our children are still confined to failing schools. They are looking to us to make sure that a state that is number one in which to do business is not 49th in the compensation it pays to our state law enforcement personnel. They are looking to us to correct the injustice of asking our firefighters to risk their lives and health to protect us and not provide a safety net for their medical bills and lost income. This we will do to honor the sacrifice and memory of the late fireman Frank Martinez of Forsyth County and my own personal hero, Fireman Brian Scudder of Gilmer County. Finally, they are looking to us to make sure that the bright light of economic development and job growth, of which we are so proud as a state, shines on every corner and in every community of this state, no matter how small and no matter how rural. As we go through this session, we will not always agree. That's the nature of this business and this process. But know this, I love this house. I am proud of how it has been this house that has led on so many issues over the past 7 years. When I was first entrusted with this position, I made a solemn promise to this body to fiercely defend the independence of the House of Representatives. I renew that pledge today, and I renew that pledge at a time of a special milestone. 50 years ago this month, this House finally achieved the constitutional ideal of being a separate, distinct, and co-equal branch of state government. In January of 1967, for the first time, this House elected its own Speaker. This House, for the first time, rejected the practice of having the governor appoint the Speaker, the committee chairs, the subcommittee chairs, and it actually took charge of the budget process. Under this podium today, there are 2 phones. One line to the Senate podium and one line to the Speaker's office. In a move that symbolized the new independence of the House that January, Speaker George L. Smith had removed the 3rd line, which was a phone to the governor's office, and it has never been replaced. While we are proud of the partnerships we enjoy with our executive branch, partnerships which have been good for Georgia, we must always be mindful that the power to legislate, to reflect the will of the people, will be honored and protected by this body. We begin this session at a moment of unprecedented change. Our nation has chosen a new course, due in part to the feeling of many that their voices were not being heard. I am hopeful that one result of this change will be a return of power and authority to the states, including our own, because I, for one, reject the notion that Washington knows best. I want to thank Chairman Powell and Chairman Smyrie for their kind words of support this morning. They are friends. They are rocks. And I'm especially pleased to you, Chairman Smyrie, for helping me send a message of cooperation as we begin this session. I want to thank the members of this House for this privilege. You have honored me beyond measure. Most of all, I want to thank the people of the 7th House District, many of whom are here today. who are and forever shall be my first constituency. They have stood by me through the good times and the challenges, and I will never forget that. I especially thank my family and friends for their unconditional love and unwavering support. They truly are the wind beneath my wings. I hope that you are as ready as I am to get to work, because there is much to be done. But I know what this house can do because I have seen it time after time after time. Let me close by saying that I pray for God's blessings upon each of you, but I especially pray for your families back home, because they truly sacrifice more than we. May God bless you, and may He continue to bless the greatest state in the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the state of Georgia. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.